I'm probably going to get interrupted in this film. Is that annoying? Dan Milner, damn glad to meet you. Mom, get me some meatloaf. What is she doing in there? Okay, I'll stop. I'll stop. I won't do it again. I won't use it again. So we haven't done a Q&A. I say we because the questions come from you to me, and then I regurgitate all of my conspiratorial theories back towards you about this stuff. Before we go any further, I think this is question and answer 60. 60. We've been doing this for a long time. I used to do 10 questions. I'm going to do about 5 or maybe 6 today or 7, something like that, to keep it a little bit shorter and break it up. I am one person with one opinion. That's all it is. Take it for what it is. I was telling somebody the other day that was coming to me as if my opinion of their work or my critique or edit of their work was the be-all, end-all critique or edit of the work. And I said, ultimately, as the creative, as the author, you are the gatekeeper, the final gatekeeper for your projects and your work. I'm just one person with one opinion. I've said this before. If you show your work to 10 photographers, you might get 7 or 8 different opinions on the work. So ultimately, you are responsible for that. So I'm just one person with one opinion, but also thank you to everybody that sent questions in. I just went on Discord and boom, and then ironically a bunch of other people wrote in and asked me questions without even prompting. So good on you. So what we're going to do here, 3 of the questions are not photo specific or photo book specific. The rest of them are. So I'm going to start with a non-photo and I'm going to end with 2 non-photo, and then the photo stuff's in the middle. Number 1 question. Let's just warm up here, people. Let's warm up. I'm going to slide my fountain pen just out of reach because I just want to take it and write with it all the time. Recommendations. What are your recommendations for cold weather gloves? Well, I am a wuss and I'm super skinny and I don't have a lot of body fat. So I have gloves and hats and layers with me all the time because I am a wuss. So I have a lot of gloves. I've got everything from super cycling gloves, super cheap cycling gloves. I've got these gloves, which are a kind of a wool mitten, but the ever important index finger is alive and well. Now, I've had these gloves since high school. They are not particularly warm, but as you will see, they have a leather patch right here, and yes, the trigger finger is exposed. And yes, I did not buy these gloves to make pictures. These are not photography gloves. These are shooting gloves, which I've had since high school because I was a competitive shooter for a long time. So yeah, these work incredibly well for photography. They're just not that warm. So if there's any wind blowing, they're not so great. But again, I've had them since high school, so that's a pretty good buy. If you go to the Beyond Clothing website, which I have not been to in a long time, I don't know if they still make these or not, but Beyond used to make 3 different sets of gloves. They had what was called a guide glove, a guide light glove, and I think like an expedition glove, which was a 2-piece set. I have all 3 of those gloves and I wear them routinely in fall, winter, and spring. Because remember, I'm out shooting, I'm out hiking, I'm out doing stuff, but I'm also riding a motorcycle too. And the motorcycle, if it's below 40 degrees on the motorcycle, it's cold. Gloves, hands and feet, head, neck, everything has to be covered. And so these are sort of the middle weight blurb gloves, and these could be the guide gloves or they could be something else. They're leather. I coat them in, I seal them all the time, but these are very handy, very helpful. And also I think this index finger has the touchscreen capability for working with, still using your phone without taking your glove off, which is always kind of nice. So I've had these for 5 years and I love them. Super good. And then last year in Antarctica, I bought these things, which are they're not expensive and they're not particularly great. Sorry, whoever makes these. But these are a glove with the fingers, and then the mitten part is magnetized, snaps like this, and then comes back over, and then the thumb one is separate. So these are passable. They're not waterproof, which was a problem in Antarctica because they mostly got wet right away. They still kept my hands warm when they were wet, but they took a long time to dry out. They might, yeah, they're okay. The little thumb thing just always fell off, so my thumb was always like, hey, what up? What about me? Like, do you not want this appendage? If I get too cold, I'm gonna fall off, turn black and fall off. So these are not great, but I'm gonna take these to Patagonia anyway. The last other pair of gloves I have is a pair of snowboarding mittens that go like all the way up to my elbow. And I bought those in 1996. And I still have them. And they have the little slot in the back where you can crush the little heater packs and put in there for snowboarding. I bought them in 96. I snowboarded one time in 96, and I've never used them since, but I know exactly where they are. I still have them. So that's like worst case scenario. If I'm wearing those, you know, who knows? An ICBM has hit somewhere and we're living in the rubble. So I don't envision wearing those anytime soon. Number 2. Okay, we're getting into the nitty gritty here for, now we're talking photo books. I'm planning on printing and gifting a small photo book of my monochrome work to my favorite 10 friends and family. How do I approach this without looking like it's self-serving? Well, the truth is, at least my truth, alternative facts here, I don't think you can. Someone could conceivably take it as self-serving, but the truth is, most of the gifts we give each other are kind of crap that's going to be conceivably thrown away. You know, I just read somewhere that the average garment in America is worn 7 times before it's thrown away. That is insane. I'm wearing shoes right now that I've had for 26 years. So I'm not one of these wear 7 times and throw away guy. And I'm also not into buying gifts that don't matter. So for example, my nieces, my wife and I came up with a way of, I'm not buying them gifts for birthday and Christmas and holidays and all that kind of stuff. I'm putting money in an account for them for the future that they can use to hopefully travel with my wife and I, that sort of the thing. So making a photo book that's a personal object and giving it away, you could conceivably say that's self-serving, but I think you're being way too cautious and way too sensitive about that. Give them a book. Most people are going to dig it because it has meaning and it goes far beyond something you're going to buy, some trivial thing. I'm a fan of only giving gifts that have meaning or gifts that are going to last. Like if you want to get a double-walled stainless steel water bottle and give that to someone, conceivably that's going to last for the next 25, 30 years, that's a good gift. Buying cheap stuff that's going to get tossed away is not good. So I wouldn't worry about looking like you're self-serving. I think it just shows that you're interested in your photography. And when's the last time somebody received something in print from photography? So I think it's good. I don't think it's self-serving at all, and I wouldn't worry about it. My holiday feeling, for the most part, is summed up in 3 words. I don't care. So I don't care what you think of the holiday. I don't care what holiday you celebrate. I don't care if you got me a gift. I don't care if you like the gift that I gave you. I don't care. So I guess I have it easy. Maybe I'm dead inside. Who knows? Ask my wife. If I don't, let's say that we're watching Steel Magnolias and I don't sob on the couch. My wife looks at me and says, "You are so cold. You are so cold." And I'm like, "You're probably right. My 26-year-old shoe just fell off. You could be right. I might be cold. But I blame my parents. Nothing is my fault. It's always someone else's fault." Okay, number 3. This is a good one. We've talked about this many times. How do you approach research on projects? Here is the differentiator between me and you, but only if you are a photographer who is allergic to research because you want to think that everything you're doing is original. I know I gave up a long time ago in thinking that I was going to come up with original things. Now, I may or may not have come up with original things over the years, and I'm still making things that are editions of one that are kind of unique one-off things, but most projects have been done. I always looked at research as a fun integral part of doing a project. I love doing research. I'm interested and I'm curious. And once you start throwing around the C word, you get into trouble. This is just a thumb and some fingers. But when I start throwing it around, it's real trouble. That's a bastardized quote from Me, Myself, and Irene with Jim Carrey, and I can't remember, but it's a great scene if you know what I'm talking about. I love research. The kind of research I do depends on the project and depends on the amount of time and the amount of commitment and the amount of research that is required. For example, I mentioned this last week. I was looking at a guy's work, photographer from Canada who's working in Peru. And when I saw the work from a distance and I said, okay, that's definitely nice work, then I was kind of asking him questions about his knowledge of the area and the history and tradition. And the guy was really knowledgeable. And I said, oh, that as a respect, photographer to photographer respect, my respect for him went through the roof because I was like, he did his research. Not only that, he moved there and speaks the language and blah, blah, blah. But that's the kind of research. So the last research I did was prior to going to Morocco to teach the workshop a month ago. And I did enough research to come up with a project idea and then did enough research to know where I was going to be, what I could conceivably see pertaining to the project that I wanted to do. And that was it. I would call it research light because after all, I wasn't there specifically to work on a project and work for myself. I was there to help other people and to teach a workshop, but I always have that story in my pocket to go back to. So I had just enough research to make sure that I was able to continue working on that project no matter where I was or what I was doing. Other projects that I've done that are in other countries that are more costly, that take, when I was going as a photographer just to work on the project, you bet your butt I was doing a ton of it. And also I was doing this before we really had the internet. So I was going to the library. You remember that library, those buildings where people live in their car? That's where I was going to do my research instead of just, hey, and now you lazy bums could just say AI do the research for me. By the way, I've not been to an AI site, and I know someone out here is going to try to prove me wrong because that's what you do. I've done a Google search where the AI generated response comes up at the top. I don't look at those because they're terrible. So I go down and I find the loser like me that has an actual website. And I go to that person and I look at that. I don't look at the AI generated stuff. I've never been to ChatGPT. I have no interest in using AI for anything. I don't use it to edit. I don't use it to write my stuff, whatever. I like doing what I'm doing. I don't need a computer to do it for me. So, but I'm sure that tons of people are going to be using AI because everybody wants to half-ass everything. That's just the way we are. Remember the fake it till you make it crowd? Not a fan. Not a fan. That's how I do research. But most of it now starts online. But I was joking earlier, but I still love the library. I still go to the library to do research as well. I talk to people. I make phone calls. I send emails. All of that stuff. Again, it's fun. I like doing it. And then it all goes in my notebook with a fountain pen. Because yes, I'm 112 years old. Number 4, another question I love. What are we at here? What time-wise are we at here? 13. This is nothing. We got plenty of time. So calm down. How did you manage to get off social media? Oh, it has been 11 years. Now I'm on YouTube, so you could say I'm a complete hypocrite. I'm still on YouTube. That's a social network. But I think what people are referring to is Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. 11 years ago is when I cut the cord and detoxed for 2 weeks. Physically detoxed for 2 weeks. You will as well. If you're on these networks, you are physically addicted to the network. That addiction could be a 1 on a scale of 10, or it could be a 10 on a scale of 10. Most of you, I'm assuming based on my observations over the past 11 years, you're towards the top of the scale. You're 8, 9, 10. Photographers in particular, I have watched Instagram destroy some of the best photographers in the world. That is what the program is designed to do, what the app is designed to do. It preys on ego and insecurity, of which professionals have a lot of, typically in abundance. So I managed to get off by just deleting it. It was January 1st in 2014, I believe. And I just got up on January 1st and I just deleted all these accounts. I wrote my boss ahead of time and told her what I was doing and said, I don't believe in these networks. I think they're doing more harm than good. They're destroying the best photographers. They're turning creatives into sheep. They are about following. They're not about quality, all those different things that we all know 11 years later. We all know this to be 100% true. And yet so many of you are still completely lost on these networks. And if I hear another person say, well, I have to get my workout, or I don't know how else to communicate with people, you need therapy. You need to detox and you need therapy, because if you're that sucked in, and by the way, the designers of the social media apps, they want nothing more than to hear you say that, because it means you are so hopelessly down the rabbit hole that you can't see daylight. This is my guess what will happen. If you cut your social today, you will detox for a couple of weeks physically. So in between any task that you have, your brain will say, check Instagram, check Facebook, check Twitter, check TikTok, check Snapchat, whatever it is your flavor, whatever your poison is, your brain will say, check it, check it, check it, check it. That's why you're on it all day long. The other thing too is you're flipping and with no memory of what you're looking at. I know that because I ask you. When I'm in airports and I see people on Instagram and I see them and I go up to them and I say, hey, are you on Instagram? Tell me what's the best image you saw in this little session you just had. No one can answer because it's just mindless drivel. So you will detox for 2 weeks at least. Some of you will immediately flee back to the apps and you'll try to forget that you ever tried to delete it. The people, the designers of the apps will be in the background, golf clapping, magical, we've done it, because they're all looking at us with binoculars. Some of you 2 weeks in will come out the barrel and you will look back and say, oh my God, I cannot believe I donated my life to that nonsense. And you will realize immediately that life outside of social is better life. It's much, much better. First of all, you will get back so much time that you will immediately begin to be productive in a way that social keeps you from being. You will be less agitated. You will buy less, and you will be less dependent on technology companies to direct your life. In some weird way, this is going out there, but this is predicting the future. You will become an enemy of the state if you are not involved. At some point, somebody's going to come along and try to make us all join some sort of app. It's about control, and it's really fun to be outside of social media because there is this very quiet, calm, in-depth, intelligent pathway that you are on, that you can then turn and look at the zillions of sheep who are still involved in that noise, and you'll be like, man, I'm glad I'm not over there anymore. I have not lost touch with people. I have not gone out of business. I have not been able to do what I want because I'm not on social media. It is the biggest trap in the modern era. It is. It is the biggest con in the modern era, and that's how I was able to do it, is I just cut it off. I just woke up one day and said, why am I doing this? This is the dumbest thing. No one has any attention span. This is stupid. It's crept into my subconscious. I have to get rid of it. I did, and here's the other interesting neurological component to this, is when I deleted social, I made a secondary decision at the same time, which was anytime my brain said, check social, instead I would read. I kept a book right next to me. And if I was between tasks and my brain said, check Instagram, I would stop what I was doing, I would pick up the book, and I would read. The first year, I read 80 books. And the second year, I read 80 books. So all of a sudden, I went from short form insanity on this thing to long form books. And my brain felt different. Now, I said to myself, wait a minute, my brain is the same brain as it was before. Then I started researching a little bit about neuroscience, and it turns out it's not true, that your brain's primary task is waiting for you to tell it how to change. So you can rewire the inner circuitry of your brain by going from short form content to long form. And at the end of 2 years, I was at a party, and I'm looking around, and I said to myself, which is not true, but I said it, I thought it, I'm the smartest guy in the room. Now, it's not true, because I remember who was at that party, and there are plenty of people at that party who are more intelligent than I am. But I felt intelligent because my brain felt like it was coated in liquid Teflon, and I was just effortlessly sliding through this party with the constant bombardment of social media chatter from people all around, and I had blinders on. I was like, don't need it, don't want it, stupid, ridiculous, haven't seen it, don't need to see it. Boom. And now fast forward all these years later, it's only gotten worse, and I mean worse in the best possible way. I don't even want to be around people who are on social networks. Because if we're in the middle of a conversation and you pick your phone up and say, have you seen this thing on Instagram? I am not going to be your friend very long. I just don't have any patience or tolerance for it anymore. It's done. Number 5, when and how did you know it was time to leave professional photography? I fell out of love with professional photography. Social media had come on, and Facebook in particular was the one that really started to erode things. It was pre-Instagram. I watched clients go from calm, intelligent, normal people to schizophrenic, gotta go viral, get it on Facebook as fast as possible. And I just knew that trend was not going to change. It was only going to get worse and worse. And I just said, I don't want anything to do with these people. I don't want to be around people whose mindset is that mindset. I don't find them interesting. I don't find them inspiring. Clients they no longer knew what good photography was. All the people that were in positions of power who knew what good photography was were being fired. They were aging out. They were retiring. And the new breed was coming in, and they were just obsessed with like data and trends and social and viral. And I was like, I don't want to be around these people. I don't want my work to be considered that way. I don't want to be on these networks. There's nothing about this I like. So, woo! I just blew a snot rocket. So yeah, that's why I was like, I love photography. I love photography today as much as I did 40 years ago. I just don't want to do photography for other people, because if the other people are not on the same wavelength as you, it's always a translation that has to take place. And some clients are great and they're easy to work with, and that translation happens effortlessly. But most of the time, I felt completely compromised when I was on assignment. There were plenty of times where I was on assignment where in the back of my head I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I here? Or I'd just be thinking, get through this, the money's great, get through it. The money's great, just get through it and move on, and who cares? And like, yeah, you're gonna make pictures for these folks and they're gonna be happy, you're miserable, but the money's great. And then after, you do that for a couple of years, and all of a sudden your love for photography, when you turn towards an assignment, you're kind of like, I just don't think I want to do this anymore. And plus, I have a lot of other interests. So photography is not my only interest. And thank God, because I think if I'd remained a photographer, I would not be doing pictures right now. I would not be making pictures. I would have been miserable. So the definition of what photography was changed. The definition of what good photography was changed, and also really wasn't much of a conversation. When you're hired as a photographer and the conversation is about following or numbers as opposed to the photographs, after a while you're kind of like, yeah, this is not so great. It is one of the reasons why the best work that photographers produce is personal work. Rarely does their best work come from assignments. Unless you're like, a catalog photographer or a food photographer, then yeah, sure. But if you're like a doc photographer, I mean, who's really getting hired to do that kind of work now? I hope people are, but it's not common. And then most of the time you're constrained by budgets and time. And then budget and time constraints lead to access constraints. And then the work you're producing is averaged at best. It's not like the best work you can do. So that's why I left. And I'm really glad I did, because Blurb reached out a couple of weeks later. I thought I'd work for Blurb for 3 months. It's been 15 years, best job I've ever had. So it worked out. Okay, the last 2 questions. This one is short. Number 6 is, did you have a Royal Enfield and did you like it? And Royal Enfield, for those of you who don't know, is a motorcycle company. It's an Indian brand. It's been around forever. I think they produce more motorcycles than any other brand in the world every year. And yes, I had a Royal Enfield Himalayan, the original one, the 411. There's since been a new release of the Himalayan, which is a 450, that gets rave reviews, even from the total dork ADV guys who are, they're as bad as camera review guys. They're reviewing nonstop. It's mind-numbing, and how anyone or why anyone watches those, I have no idea. The 450 gets reviews. Everyone seems to love it. The print media loves it. And it's affordable. It's a cool bike. I've never ridden it, never touched it. I really liked my Himalayan. First of all, it was dirt cheap for a motorcycle. It was fast enough to run on the highway. It was smooth, lots of low-end power. The thing about it two things about it is why I got rid of it. Number one, very heavy. It's a heavy bike off-road, and where I live, when you go off-road, there's a lot of dry. There's a lot of sand. And that bike, when it's, you're going to dump your bike off-road. If you ride motorcycles long enough off-road, you're going to dump it. Could be the first day that you ride off-road, could be the last day you ride off-road. Dumping your bike off-road is a common thing. The 411 was really hard to handle off-road in anything loose, and then it was really heavy to pick up. To pick up that thing is not easy. It's a heavy motorcycle. So, but I have nothing but love for Royal Enfield, and I have nothing but love for the Himalayan. I replaced it with a Honda XR 150, which is super light. It's also, I think, the least expensive motorcycle you can buy in the US. And it's been sold overseas for decades, but they just brought it here. It's carbureted, 150 cc's. I put a Yoshimura pipe on it. It sounds really fast, and it is a total dog. At 7,000 feet with a carburetor, even after I rejetted it, you're just pinned all the time. But it's a blast to ride. It's super light. And off-road, I have never aimed it at anything off-road that gave me any second of doubt. It doesn't matter what you're looking at off-road, you're like, I can do it, I can do it. And if it falls over, it's light, you just pick it up, no big deal. The other thing about the XR 150 that's better for me as opposed to the Himalayan is I have a hitch mount on the van, and I can put that 150 on the back very easily. It's well within the weight limit of the hitch, and the Himalayan was right on the borderline. And it's a lot of bike, a handful for me to get up on the hitch mount by myself, and then it's really heavy. Whereas the Honda is just effortless, comes on and off, no big deal. So that's what I'm riding right now. I would still love, the ultimate bike for me is the Honda 300 Rally. That's the bike I waited 18 months to get. Honda screwed all the owners who were waiting for that bike by giving bikes to YouTube influencers. It was maddening. It almost completely turned me off to Honda because I'd been waiting for 18 months with an order in, and I was watching YouTube influencers spend 5 minutes with the bike and get their bike, and Honda wasn't giving them to paying customers. So it drove me insane. But that is still the best bike for me because the 150 is too slow for the road. It's really too slow for even a 2-lane blacktop. There are times where I can't do over 40, 45 miles an hour, and that's just too dangerous to ride. It's too slow. The 300 is perfect. They're expensive. They're hard to get. I get it, but it's a bulletproof motorcycle. I keep waiting for Kawasaki to do their 300 like the Honda, put on a larger gas tank and a fairing. You would sell as many of them as you could produce. I do not understand motorcycle brands at all. They're way more baffling than camera brands. Like camera naming conventions, whoever's doing those, they're high, totally high. They've been smoking Jamaican Thundercloud all day, and they're like doing naming conventions. Motorcycle companies are baffling because I look at the Honda 300 Rally. You haven't been able to get those bikes since they came out. Their demand is absolutely through the roof. I still have never seen one on a showroom floor. Never. So I'm sure you can now, but when I looked again, and this was years ago, I waited 18 months. So I waited 18 months for the Honda 300 Rally, then bought the Himalayan, drove the Himalayan for whatever, a year and a half, sold it, got the XR. I still haven't seen a 300 Rally in a showroom. So why Kawasaki or Yamaha or Suzuki has not come out with an equivalent bike is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. The Chinese are doing it. The Chinese are coming with some pretty amazing bikes, dirt cheap too. Okay, last question, which has nothing to do with books or photography, but it's an interesting question because I get asked this all the time, mostly because a lot of folks in my circles are from overseas. So all over the world. A lot of the workshop students and a lot of my blurb connections are from other parts of the world, and I get a lot of questions about America right now. What is happening? What is wrong with America? So I don't want to talk about politics. I don't want to talk about party because I think that's why we are where we are. But the state of America right now, to me, is a combination of several things. Number one is a failing education system. Our education system is failing. The rest of the world, for whatever reason, thinks that we are a highly educated country. It's not true. I wouldn't say that we're uneducated. I would say that we are undereducated. If you just go through the public school system, it is not a good school system to prepare you for the world. So that's number one, a failing education system. Number two is you have political partisanship that is kind of toxic. So people are entrenched, embedded on their side of the equation, and they're pointing the finger at the other side. That's number two. Number three is you have a population that is willing to ingest disinformation as fact. So the day, and this is a really tricky part of the equation, the day that people started to take disinformation as fact, that is a almost impossible thing to battle. And that's tied back to the education system. So if you're not educated enough to understand you're being exposed to disinformation, and two, you're willing to accept the disinformation as fact, that is a huge problem. You also have, that was number three. Number four is unregulated social media. Social media is greatly responsible for the situation that America finds herself in now. It is the Facebook, it is the Instagram, it is the Twitter, it's the TikTok, the Snapchat, the purposeful delivery, mass delivery of disinformation for profit is really turned our culture and society inside out. So that's four. Five is really unparalleled corruption in America. We've always been a corrupt nation, always, since the time of the colonies. That's how things happened. That's how you became a politician. You became a politician. The only way you could be a politician was to own land. So politicians would give huge swaths of land to a buddy for $1 so that they could get them on their political side. They could use their vote. We have been corrupt from day one. Historically, most of us have tried to hide our corruption. That doesn't happen anymore. Now corruption is just out in the open, and it's accepted again because of the partisanship when people have divided into their camp, your camp, our camp, yours, me against you, us against them. It's really stupid, ties back to lack of education. And the last thing corruption is the last point would be greed. It's just unparalleled greed, and I think that was brought on by technology. That was brought on by the superpowers, the broligarchs, the tech, the Elon Musks of the world, the Zuckerbergs of the world, the Bezoses of the world. They are the most insatiably greedy people the planet has ever seen. So when you combine those 5 or 6 things together, you get modern United States of America. And I frankly have no idea how this is going to end. Most likely it's going to end poorly, and then hopefully we survive and rebuild. But I don't know. It's a weird time, and it's definitely affecting my circles in a variety of different ways. But also, there's a lot of people who are just getting destroyed right now, and it's a bummer to see. But I'm hoping that the next time we talk about this in a Q&A, maybe there's a little glimmer of hope or some light at the end of the tunnel. I don't see it right now, but you never know. You never know. Desperate times call for desperate measures. So, I think the one thing to keep in mind is that the American public as a whole tends to rally together when we ultimately have to. You see this in times of when there's a national crisis or, there's an earthquake somewhere, and all of a sudden, there's a lot of people in trouble, a lot of people hurting, and the neighboring states are like, hey, we got you. Firefighters are coming and first responders, and people are sending food and all that kind of stuff. So ultimately, push comes to shove, Americans tend to bond together. But I think that there's a huge movement right now based from the political side and the tech side and the finance side, and that is to purposely drive people apart because it's profitable. And so that's what we have to get beyond. We have to get over that hurdle first, and then we can start putting the puzzle pieces back together. So I appreciate you tuning in for this. Remember, one person with one idea. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more questions that I'm not going to do right now. I'm going to come back and do these in another one. But hopefully that's helpful. If you have any other questions that you want me to answer, or you think I'm an idiot, which is true. Someone out there will remind me in the comments that I am an idiot, or that the Honda 300 Rally is not the motorcycle for me, or that I should use these and do the entire YouTube film through the walkie-talkie. Bye.